Hello and welcome back. This is not my usual episode. I am going on the road today. I'm not going to be gardening in my Atlanta, Georgia Zone 7B 8A garden, but I am going on a garden related road trip to get some inspiration from an incredibly beautiful house in Tennessee. And I thought it would be fun to take you with me so that I could share whatever inspiration I get with you. So let's get going. The drive from Atlanta to Nashville was completely highway, but it was such absolute beautiful highway this time of year. The trees were changing colors. It was one of those perfect kind of days for a road trip. Also, I have a theory about people that take road trips. I feel like there's only two types of people. There is the type that point out the animals that they see along the way, and then there's the type that roll their eyes because you've already called out so many different cows and horses that it's getting old. And I did this road trip solo, so I'm gonna leave it to your imagination to guess what kind of person I am. And without further ado, the house that we're here to visit today together. It might look familiar to you as I've done another video featuring evergreen low maintenance shrubs and perennials inspired by this house. This is the Southern Living 2023 Idea House outside of Nashville, Tennessee. You can tell by the outside of this house that the inside of this house is absolutely immaculate. And while I loved looking at the incredible decor, the really beautiful furniture, the seasonal decorations, and the absolutely over-the-top everything, we're here to talk about the gardens and the landscaping, and I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I'm taking back with me in terms of plant combinations and super cool low maintenance plants that are now going on my garden wish list. In terms of the garden space itself, this home is situated on a hill and had sweeping, beautiful views. The outdoor space itself featured a fire pit area, obviously the pool with the hot tub, an incredibly gorgeous potting shed, which I now need in my garden. Actually, now that I think about it, this is basically a potting shed / greenhouse because all these beautiful windows really led to a lot of radiant heat capture. I think we all need this type of potting shed in our gardens, don't we? Off the potting shed was this really beautiful turf / hardscape installation that led to 3 really beautiful raised beds. Okay, so I'm back home now and I'm in my own garden, but I wanted to recap 3 things that I took away from this beautiful home. So first off, I'll say that overall the vibe that I got is low maintenance, low effort, but beauty all year round. Whoever designed this landscape, I think they were designing with a busy family in mind. And one of the things that I really loved about this landscape was the use of evergreens and perennials in containers. I am trying to actually move away from using a ton of annuals and having to change out my container seasonally. I used to really love doing it, but now it just seems to be something that I don't really love doing. And maybe there will come a day where I come back to being an annual loving, seasonal container changing person. But right now, with what's going on in my life, I would love to mimic some of the containers that I saw and put it into practice in my own garden, using shrubs like Dragon Prince Cryptomeria, Gardenia, and adding in heucheras and perennials that'll look good all year round means that I won't have to fuss and change out my containers seasonally when I might be going through a busier time of year and my containers are looking a little worse for the wear. Also, this home made me really want to go and invest in a couple of really nice containers. All of the planters at the Southern Living Idea House were Michael Carr designs, and they were just so stunning and looked really beautiful on their own. I'm a very frugal gardener, so it's something that I would look to add to the garden slowly, but I think I am going to be slowly changing out some of the containers that I've gotten that were on the cheaper side and are starting to fall apart now, and switch them out for some nicer planters to treat myself. So the second thing that I took note of was not only the containers, but also the choices that were planted in the ground. These were very much focused on being low maintenance, evergreen, beautiful all year round type of plants that would provide that seasonal beauty without the homeowner having to be outside and fussing with the landscape a lot. Personally, my secret hope is that a landscape like this and a family that would move in would see the beauty and want to continue and keep expanding. But what I hope is it's the perfect kind of gateway garden where there's enough diverse plants and things to look at, but also something that kind of gives a tease and creates that garden curiosity that then slowly turns into a love of gardening over time. Anyways, that's my personal agenda, but let me get back to the plant combinations that I saw there and one particular plant that caught my eye this time of year, and I am definitely adding into my garden as soon as I can get my hands on it. The first bed that stood out to me was the one that was adjacent to the potting shed. I just thought it was really well done. Let's talk about it. This bed makes a statement with only 4 different types of plants: lamb's ear, boxwood, that beautiful grass, and hydrangeas. The hydrangeas, which aren't in bloom, are completely hidden away in sight by the boxwoods and really don't take away from this bed at all. This bed also includes Platinum Beauty Lamandra, which I grew all the way through until last year. It is a true zone 8 plant and up, and did not tolerate our freeze, but it is absolutely beautiful and looks like this all year round. This bed is another example of the boxwood in front of the hydrangeas, which helps to cover up the hydrangeas and give seasonal interest throughout the winter. I'm not personally a boxwood girly just yet, but I can be persuaded. I've heard that there is a blight-resistant boxwood coming to market, so I would be tempted to try that sort of boxwood in my garden. But let me zoom in on this perennial right here. This is the one that is immediately being added to cart if I see it nearby. This is Ever Amethyst Agapanthus, and this is November. Let me show you the buds that this plant had in November. I am blown away. I know things are often marketed as reblooming, but rarely do you get to see an example of it, and this is one of those that I'm really excited about and going to be looking for. Of course, camellias this time of year are beautiful. I'm like 90% sure this is early wonder camellia, but next to it was another plant that caught my eye and something that I want to incorporate into a shady bed somewhere. This is Soft Caress Mahonia. What a beautiful texture. I love how open and airy it is. Such a good compact evergreen shrub to add with a neat look that contrasts against broadleaf shrubs like camellias for your shady garden beds. And the last thing that caught my eye and I really loved and I wanted to share with you was the addition of veggie garden beds into the landscape. I was so happy to see the veggie garden beds. There were 3 small raised beds that were created. One was an herb garden bed, which is a great thing to start with if you haven't yet tried to grow veggies. A lot of herbs are perennials and things that will continue to come back year after year. So if veggie gardening intimidates you, I absolutely would encourage you to at least plant a couple of herbs. You never know, it might get you hooked. The location of a veggie garden, I feel like, is the most important part and something that I thought was very well thought of. There are 2 key things that I think are important when you're trying to figure out where to put a veggie garden, and I thought they did a really good job of it in this home. So first off, you want to make sure that that area gets full sun. The more sun, the better production that you'll get, the less that you'll feel like you're a failure. Majority of veggies and things that you would want to plant in a veggie garden really want that full sun. The second thing that you really want to do is make sure that you are siting your veggie bed close to where your back doors are, close to where you're going to visit. That is going to make it very easy and more hands-off. If you're more likely to walk by that space because it's part of your daily routine already, you're going to be more likely to catch pests, you're going to be more likely to see when things need water, versus if it's in a spot that you never go to, a corner of your backyard, maybe a corner of your front lawn. If you're not likely passing that area already, you're not going to want to go and check on that area every day. It's not going to be part of your natural kind of movement throughout your day. It made me really excited to see the veggie garden beds, mostly because in my head, the family that moves into this home is the family that has young kids. They're super busy. They're going to enjoy their landscape that looks good all year round and produces beautiful flowers from time to time. And they're also going to see this veggie bed and they're going to start experimenting with growing their own veggies and planting who knows what, maybe just zinnias the first year. And those children are going to grow up with a curiosity and maybe a love of gardening. So That's the story that I have in my head, and I feel like that's also the power of just having a couple of raised beds and exposing kids to the joy of gardening. We're not talking about a full-scale farm operations, and this is not going to be your full-time job. A couple of raised beds gives you the option of growing your own snacks, maybe growing beautiful flowers, while getting outside and experimenting in the garden and getting more garden curious. So that's my romantic view of the world. I would love to see more and more people fall in love with this hobby. And honestly, that's kind of the whole motivation of me making the videos, because I'm not a botanist. I didn't go to school for agriculture. I'm not a horticulturist. I'm just a regular mom that moved into a suburban home and became more interested and curious about the plants that were in my own garden and how I could make my own space more beautiful. And through that, really fell in love with this therapeutic, beautifying hobby that's not only good for me, my mental health, but it's great for kids to get outside, and then overall it's good for the environment, because the more we can plant instead of just actual lawns, the better it is for biodiversity and the planet. Okay, I'm all done. This is enough. I'm cutting this off. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that was helpful and maybe inspired you to look at a couple of plants that you might have not otherwise considered. I love looking at other people's landscapes, not just my own, because it gives me some ideas for what I might want to add in my own garden. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and you might be able to take away a couple of golden nuggets to add into your own garden. I am so grateful for you watching my channel and supporting me on here, and I will see you in the next video.